morning to everyone. We praise the Lord for this opportunity once again that we can study. And if you notice now, our lectures here are complementary with each other. Okay? And today my part is about this is handling obstacles. Brethren, we all have obstacles. We will have problems. If you're looking for a church that has no problem, you will find none. And if it happens to be one, please don't join, because you may be the problem. Okay? There isn't one. All churches have problems. And that is our training in the seminary, to go out and deal with these issues. Obstacles and problems are normal challenges to leadership. Going for difficulty, out of a difficulty, or about to go into one, those are three phases all of us have experienced or will experience. So I challenge you in regards to that to learn how to handle. The issue is not avoiding obstacles. The issue is how to handle them. So this morning, let's just talk about how to handle obstacles when they come our way. So what can we do to handle obstacles? Number of observations that I want this morning to make. First of all, we learn to seek the Lord in prayer. Now this is very important. Always take your issues to God. Make it your first item of business when you are confronted with an obstacle or problem. Just take it to the Lord. In fact, these very 5 words, I remember, I think 2011, 12, 13, when I was suffering from cancer pain, I've received lots of messages, comforting, encouraging messages. But the one that for me it stands, that cannot be erased in my mind, is only just 5 words. No? Take it to the Lord. Just 5 words. Even when I give let's say, advice to the newlyweds, this is also what I said. 5 words. I will talk just 5 words. Take it to the Lord. Okay? Take it to the Lord. If the Lord can solve your problem, nobody else can. You must understand that. So we just learn to spread our problem to the Lord, learn to take it to Him. In many ways, the Lord will answer or solve our problem. You remember Paul? What's the problem of Paul? He has a thorn in the flesh. And I prayed to the Lord how many times? The Bible said 3 times. And I believe many, many times. But what's the Lord's answer? Did God heal his thorn in the flesh? The answer of God is, my grace is sufficient for me. Okay? So what Paul said, oh Lord, it's better to have the thorn in the flesh and your grace is sufficient for me than have no thorn in the flesh, but your grace is far away from me. So Paul said, we beseech the Lord, He will give you grace, or the Lord said, I will give you grace to endure the problems. If He doesn't take it away, He will give you grace so that you can handle those problems. So you must learn to seek the Lord in prayer. Secondly, always keep your eye on the big picture. Always keep your eye on the big picture. The danger with problem is that they have the tendency to detour you. Okay? The tendency to get you off the main issue, off the main objective, off the main purpose. It always self-exploit to introduce obstacles. It did in the early church to get us off the main thing. If we can learn to keep our eye on the big picture, it puts the problem in its proper perspective. To recognize, first of all, that it may be, that's a satanic introduction that intends to get you off the main track. Or otherwise, it could be just an obstacle along the way that if left and unattended, we don't have a right perspective. We may get off the main track. So learn to keep the big picture in mind. Again, recognize that as leaders, we are not to react to obstacles or respond to them. In fact, they become a challenge to us. Okay? Every issue, every difficulty, every problem becomes for us a challenge of how we can solve it, how we can respond in a positive way. So learn to keep a big picture in mind. Along with that is number 3, to discern between a mountain and a molehill. Ano yung molehill? Along lang. Molehill. Do you see the difference? A hill is not as tall or as steep as a mountain. So making a mountain out of a molehill, this is actually an idiom, no? Referring to overreactive, histrionic, or exaggerated behavior where persons makes too much of a minor issue. We can say yes to every issue because it depends on the issue. Some things are mountains. Other things are just molehills. Learn the difference. Some of us have a cunning ability to make every molehill into a mountain. We do everything, it makes it a major issue, major crisis. You know what? The ship, the big vessels sink just because of a little molehill that comes across. Some problems appear larger than they actually are. I'll give you an example. Saul, in the story of Saul and David issue. You remember when David came back after the war, do you hear what the women sing about David? Saul has slain his thousands. David is 10,000. It became a mountain to Saul. You see? It was just a molehill. It's not a big issue. If you really know David's heart, David is a very loyal servant. David had no intention of taking the man's throne. No intention, and yet he made his molehill into a mountain. He was upset because of that, and that destroyed his entire kingdom over a little molehill he thought to be a mountain. It wasn't. Again, recognize that these things happen to us along the way, no? Contrast David. David had "33 commanders, no? Mighty men, superheroes. Remember? And yet he was not threatened by them. He always considered them part of his team, part of his support group. And he knew how to discern a mountain and a molehill. Ask the Lord for great wisdom. You can list at least 2 or 3 wise men in your life that you could call in a moment's notice. Either late Saturday night, Sunday morning, anytime during the week. During your life, you can call them and help them to help you discern between a mountain and a molehill. Very important for you to do that, no? Very frequently, I receive visitors in the house, no? Most of them as pastors and church leaders who have personal, ministerial problems without them knowing that they have problems too. And most of the time, my problem are bigger than theirs. I listen to their problem. They didn't know that my problems are bigger than his problem, their problem. It's just a matter of putting problem in the right perspective, brethren. So put some names of people that you trust, and when in doubt, ask them. Okay? Number 4, extremely important. When it comes to obstacles and problems, be what? Be humble. Okay? Just be humble. Always practice humility when it comes to obstacles. Okay? First of all, know that there are really some oppositions. Sometimes when you attack by people that calls for no defense. Remember Moses, for example? When he was attacked by people of his own ranks, Moses just keep quiet. No defense. So just simply let your reputation, honor, let your ministry speak for itself, and eventually it will. You don't need to go all wild up. Okay? Fellows, it's important that you don't have a higher view of yourself that you ought to have. It's important that you don't have a higher view of yourself than you ought to. Does that make sense? Don't think of yourselves more highly than you ought to think, because that will make you upset over everything, because you think you're a prima donna. You think that you're somebody special when you really are not. You will be upset of every person that criticizes you. On the other hand, if you have a good, sound self-image and you know what you're up to and your ministry, when people attack you, you don't need to offer defense or defend yourself for everything. Learn Moses' example. Be meek and trust the Lord for the outcome. On the other hand, number 2, some obstacles calls for serious confession. You know what? Sometimes obstacles are self-caused. Get what I mean? We are the problem. You'll be amazed how you can take a very good situation and mess it up. You'll be amazed at that. You step out of the seminary, and get your degree, your MD, and jump and upset the ship, it will be your fault. So learn to recognize that. Learn that it's going to be many times your problem. So admit it, confess to it, be real. Fellows, actually we have an advantage. You have an advantage, no? If you're a neophyte. You have an advantage over the old pastors. In what sense? Let's say, if that is your first church, you can afford to have lots of mistakes and say, I'm sorry. That's your advantage over old pastors. You can say, I'm sorry, this is my first church. Pastor Sipagaysa did not teach me in the seminary. So you can say these things and they can forgive you for that because that is your first church. So again, don't be so proud that you can hold on and die on your pride. If you make mistake, your wife will tell you, if you have a good and honest wife, she will say, it's your fault. Don't get mad at her. Don't divorce her. Okay? She is your best friend. Listen to her. That's why I've once given exhortation to my fellow pastor that is being ordained. Talk about the pastor and the congregation, the pastor and his family, the pastor and the word. And then I talk about the pastor and his family. The pastor and his family. You know what? I've seen a lot of churches, very big churches. And then, if you happen to go by, you will say, wow, what a successful pastor he is. A huge building, a large congregation. But as the son, he's a failure as a father. Why? Because his son is neglected. His son thought that the members of the church are his competitor to the charis and love his father. That's why I told him, brother, involve your family. Make them your partner in whatever endeavor you are from the Lord. Actually, our first ministry, our family. You know what? Church members come and go. But your families are the ones who will live back forever. Worst situation, still they were there. Okay? Don't get mad at her, especially your wife. Okay? You might have a good friend in the church that will tell you that after a while you will see it yourself. So recognize again that you may be the problem. The sin in the cup may be yours. May be your sin. And so deal with the issue. Don't be afraid, just confess it. In the early years of ministry, you can learn to do that. And the people will understand. Okay? They'll expect you to have some mistake as long as you own up to that. You'll be growing to your mistakes. So let me encourage you once again. If you are the problem, be humble enough to accept it. If you make a mistake, nothing wrong with backing up, apologizing to the board, apologizing to the church, and you be on your way. In my life at this stage, I'm still making mistakes. But I must own up to it. Practice humility, fellows. In many small churches, there are high tolerance. That's the consolation. They will take a young minister and you can be practicing your sermons upon these people. And they will say, oh, you're a nice guy. Although you have a lousy sermon. And somebody will say, he will improve in time. Thank you for these little churches. You know what, brothers? Some of us have been through with that. Thank you for they're not expecting their pastor to be like John MacArthur, or Charles Spurgeon, or R.C. Sproul, or Pastor Dutz Vanderloot. But a neophyte, young boy, like you and me before, that's what they look at him. They may say it, but that's what they look at you. They may not say it, but that's what they look at you. And in due time, you will improve. That's true. In due time, you're gonna be improved if you remain humble. You know the value of small church? The value of a small church? Many small churches produce great preachers. So value smaller churches. We need small churches all the time because it produces great preachers. Pastor Parkon started here with a handful of people.
I started with
3 members. Maybe your wife and your...
Not here, but in the other.
You see? We must value. Don't say, oh, I only just have a small church. Please. Throw away that concept. Because we need small churches all the time. Stay humble, gentlemen, ladies. If you're the problem, admit to it, and then move on. Every now and then, some oppositions call for courageous confrontation. Okay? In humility, for the sake of truth, for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of the church, and for the sake of ministry, you have to simply stand up and confront. There are times that you have to confront and not be afraid to do that. That's not being prideful, but you simply learn to defend God's truth. It's part of humility. Not defend on you as much as defend on God. The truth of God, the church of God, the people of God, to stand up and confront those that need to be confronted from time to time. So again, we're going to learn to do that, no? It's easy to do, and it's hard to do that. Now, on the other hand, some of us are not confrontational at all. It's tough for us to give up in religious stand and pick a fight. But every now and then we need to do that. When it's done, do it, and may God help you with that. No? Number 5, also in the midst of difficulties, conflicts, obstacles, and problems, we need to learn to be calm. Learn to practice what? Self-control. A leader must be cool under the worst circumstances. Our nature sometimes are going to a panic mode and just lose it all together. Some of us are wired that way. Learn to get reward the other way, no? Learn to be calm and practice self-control. A good example of a woman who practices calmness in the Bible is no other than Esther, no? Queen Esther. Remember? The Israelites was in danger of being wiped out in the kingdom of Persia. And yet she could arrange for a party. Remember? A banquet and blow a guy's cover. Si Haman, no? That's again real cool. And then have the courage to confront. No. There are times that we must defend and cross against our enemies. Pray that the Lord will give us the courage, the holy boldness it takes for us to do these things. Number 7, know the written and unwritten steps to problem resolution. By written, I mean Matthew 18. No? Learn to practice Matthew 18 when it comes to problem resolution. Our churches now are in the habit of accepting everything as a problem that is not subject to church discipline. Just because you minister does not mean that you're exempt from these things. It's because you minister does not mean that everyone has freedom to attack you. It doesn't. People that do against the preacher are subject to church discipline. I.e., for example, gossip, slander, no? Things like that. All these things are causing divisions that must be subject to church discipline. And it's amazing how we just don't practice that. So let's practice Matthew chapter 18. I would like to make a note, brethren, before you practice Matthew 18. Before you practice it, teach it well to your people first. Don't assume that people know how to practice church discipline. Way in advance, before the problems arise, teach the whole issue of church discipline. Walk them through there. One pastor called regarding the issue of church discipline because there is one member of his church causing trouble in the church. He said, I know I should practice church discipline. What shall I do? What shall we do? Well, simple question. Do your church practice church discipline? He said, we never done it for so long time. Then don't do it. Don't do it. Because they don't understand it and it will turn against you. It will backfire on you. You will lose your job. Just let it go and then teach it. Just teach it over and over again, role play it, walk them through it, so that when time does come, when you practice church discipline, people know what's the right thing to do. If you practice it only when enemies comes up, it will work against you. So it's important to walk through the issue of church discipline, teach it to them, and then begin to practice it step by step. Of course, there are also unwritten, because I said written and unwritten steps. There are unwritten ways to resolve issues. So find it out. In a corporate culture in your church, some things are resolved. For example, there are places where there is a hierarchy, no? That is based on age or family or longevity. Tap into that, no? Because that's important that we resolve these issues. You don't have always resolve your own problems. Just go to persons who is available to do it for you. Okay? Then, number 8, persevere. Fellows, if there's anything that will further teach you in this advanced leadership course, is to hang you in there.
Amen.
Persevere. Persevere. I thank you for being with us since day 1, last Monday. And hopefully, until the end, we're together. That's perseverance. And especially tomorrow, we have lots of surprises to you, so please, don't give up.
Graduation will be tomorrow afternoon. It's no time.
Okay? So, persevere. Strong leaders always outlast the opposition.
Amen.
We have an advantage to that. Just learn to hang in there. Think about the leaders in the Bible. If they have anything that we can say, that is perseverance. Think of Daniel, Moses, Joshua, and many others. They have great perseverance. The issue of not quitting. Okay? All of us, probably are tempted to quit big time.
Many times.
I personally experienced it. Pastor Park will experience it many, many times.
100 times.
Regardless of how long or how stable you are in the ministry, the time will come that you want to walk away from the church you are ministering. Now listen. You learn to hang in there. Learn to persevere. Learn like you did in the seminary. You want to quit even in your first year, right? All the first year that comes to the seminary, I always discourage them to continue. Why are you here? There's no amusement center here. We're not catering anything that only just for the passing of time. So let's discourage them and praise God. There are lots of graduates already we have in the seminary in the north. Okay? You're still here. You've learned to persevere. You're gonna survive because you're right. Because God put you in that calling. If God put you out, you're out.
Amen.
But as long as that has not happened, you're there. If the church dwindled and people live in an unpleasing life, that's their problem, not yours. God has you there until God removes you. And so this is the idea of perseverance. We sometimes just give up so easily. So little ladies with a flat lip and a fast tongue wants you out of the church. Some rich guy dangles a check in front of you and runs you out of the church. Listen, walk through all of that. Just resolve until God removes you. You are there. And people can read that. They sense that. And when they sense that you're there, they'll stop. Or they leave the church because they know that you mean business and you're going to hang in there. So perseverance be a major trait of yours. Let perseverance be a major trait of ours. Okay? You may not be superbly gifted, but if you have this in our step, a man of perseverance, you're going to have a lot of work to be done over the years. Because you're going to be there to see the job gets done. And this is going to help you quite a bit. No? Number 9, keep the laws of the dogs. Keep the laws of the dogs. What's the laws of the dogs? Letter A. The law of the dogs is. Think about that. The law of the dogs is. In Proverbs chapter 26 verse 17, the word of God says, like one who takes a dog by the ears is he who passes by and meddles with strife not belonging to him. Never grab a dog by its ear because he can bite your head off. Leave the dog alone. Don't meddle and trouble not your own. Be careful with that. Don't meddle with everything. Because if you're not careful, you can be that kind of person and you're going to get yourself messed up. Let me give you, for example, especially the pastors, the men, about, for example, women's issues. Be very careful about women's issues. Put somebody in charge with that. Women's issues are a lose-lose situation. So put preferably a wise woman in charge of women's issues. Most of them are always, sorry ladies. But most, not there. Men, they're always gossiping. They don't agree on things.
The men also.
They sometimes don't recognize the leadership among themselves. And that's not only for ladies, huh? And sometimes men are even more. And many other strange issues. Another example, kids issues. No? We sometimes find two kids in the church fighting each other, dragging their papas and mamas into an argument. It's happening in the church. So watch out, brothers and sisters, for that one. There is also one who will come to you with his problem and wants you to involve in that. It's not your problem. Watch out for issues and don't let them drag you into these problems. You see what I'm saying? It's important that you don't allow just everything that's out there become our problem. That's the law of the dog's ear. No? Be very careful if it's not your battle. Well, I may have great convictions about certain things as your teacher, but they may not be your own conviction. So why don't you get into the puzzle over somebody else's issue? So it's important for you to note that it's gonna be your issues. If it's not your issues, leave the dog alone. Okay? Because you grab the dog by the ears, before you know it, you would be without the hand. So be careful. Next, beware beware of the law of the underdog. Beware of the law of the underdog. Generically, people side with, guess who? The underdog. Now, we Filipinos, we used to support the underdog. Have you noticed all our movies or films, action films, the important character there is always the underdog at the beginning. You see? The weaker party. But normally in the church, you represent a stronger party. That's why the bully pulpit, be careful with that. The bully pulpit may turn against you. If you take the pulpit and use it to abuse, to beat, or to attack an elder in the church, or a board member of the church, or a member of the church, they're gonna side with, guess who? The underdog. So take note of that and avoid that kind of mistake because that can happen. Next, beware of the law of the barking dog. Don't lose your dignity over a barking dog. A barking dog could be a loudmouth deacon. Could be some loudmouth elder. Some loudmouth woman. Could be some loudmouth neighbor. They can be a barking dog in your ministry. So don't lose it. Don't let those persons underneath your skin. Because it can happen to us. Right? Next. Beware of the law of the sleeping dog. If it's not a problem, don't make it one. That's simple. The law of the sleeping dog. Fellows, sometimes we're notorious for doing that. We're making problems we don't want to exist there. If you're an elder rule kind of man, if you're a bloodthirsty kind of man, don't ever take a congregational church. Don't ever That would be unethical. You will be an hypocrite. You're a mercenary, you're a parasite. You just want to take an elder rule church because that's you. So sometimes we're sick with the elder rule people. We're just going to congregational rule and they are a sleeping dog. And then you go in there and you rouse the dog up and they'll run you out the town. If it's your conviction, have it. But don't take the church because it's not their conviction. She is a sleeping dog. I'm not saying all rules, right or wrong, no? But I'm saying to you, be consistent with your theology. And so you want to work to that and goes with every other area of theology of your own conviction, but you take a church that is not like your own conviction. Churches have conviction and they are sleeping on it. Rouse them up and you're going to have a problem. So it's important for us to know how to walk in these issues. Again, if it's not your problem, don't make it one. There are some pastors who are always fighting. Every week, they're fighting somebody or something. They're not happy if they're not fighting somebody. Some pastors like Alexander the Great. You know Alexander the Great? At 32, he cried. Why? Because there's nothing to conquer. There's nothing to kill. Some pastors are like that. They're weeping, but there's nobody to fight. So beware. Next, the law of the live dog. Ecclesiastes chapter 9 verse 4. For whoever is joined with all the living, there is hope. Surely a live dog is better than a dead lion. Lion is great, but it's useless when it's a dead lion. What does it mean? When the preacher stated in Ecclesiastes 9:4, it simply means learn to fight another day. There is sometimes hotly contested issue in the church that needs the consensus of the congregation. And this is done by way of votes by all the members. There are winners, of course, but sometimes it's death for the losers. You know what I mean? You can win over an issue in the church, but you're dead. Why? Because you lost those people who said no and they were leaving the church. So surely, a live dog is better than a dead lion. Learn to fight another day. If it's hotly contended, brothers, let's stop this over. Another day. Let's pray for it. Because if you win, those who oppose you will be lost. You win a certain issues, you lost 5 people. And sometimes, it's the best people that you have. So, obstacles and problems are normal challenges to leadership. Let's learn how to handle it. And by the grace of God, we will. To God be the glory.
Thank you, Pastor Rob, nag-extend na gamay ka namin sa kay Pastor Dax. You know, I didn't have a good sleep last night, thinking about the next generation, actually. uh,